The next talk is about the Jetpack Compose. As we know, Jetpack Compose is Android's modern toolkit for building a native UI. It simplifies and accelerates UI development on Android. Because at Wisdom will talk about declarative UIs with Jetpack Compose. Wisdom is a lead Android engineer at Suffix with considerable experience in mobile development, native Android dev, documentation, and technical writing, community management as well. He also a Firebase developer and a Bitrise expert. Hi, Wisdom. Thanks
Yeah.
for attending our back today.
All right. Hello. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah. So today we're talking about Jetpack Compose, majorly the difference between Jetpack Compose and which is the declarative UI and the imperative UI. All right. So let me start by sharing my screen. All right. So I guess you should see my screen right now. All right. So today we'll talk about declarative UIs with Jetpack Compose. So what is Jetpack Compose? So Jetpack Compose is an Android modern toolkit for building native UI. So it simplifies and accelerates UI development on Android, bringing apps to life with less code compared to the imperative way of building apps where you get to build your UI in XML, then you come back and build your logic with Java or Kotlin. No, that will take more time compared to Jetpack Compose that just have one section where you write your code, use that same language to write your UI and also write your logic. So it has powerful tools and intuitive Kotlin API. So it makes building Android UI very, very faster. So what is declarative UI? So declarative means you describe in some kind of language what elements you need in your UI and to some degree how they should look. So today the term is more often used for UI frameworks with a strict separation of the look of the UI from the behavior. So which means that the code reacting to your UI events. So for example, you're using your XML, like I said, you declare the look of your UI in a specific XML, but implement the behavior in a separate program code, which is what we've been building with Android, where you design your UI XML, then you come to your program code section where you use either Java or use Kotlin to now write the logics. So this design paradigm makes use of one programming language to create the entire application. Example, you have your Jetpack Compose, you have your Swift UI, and you have your Flutter. Yeah, you just use one language to build the UI and build the logic and build everything, which is an entire application. So the differences. So let's take a look at some differences between Jetpack Compose and the old XML layout. Now, one of them is the language. Now, in the imperative UI system, we had both XML files and we have the Java and Kotlin files working together to bring about the entire application. So in Jetpack Compose, it's different. There's only one language used to build everything, which is Kotlin. The business logic, the UI interface are created in Kotlin classes. As simple as that. So now going over to the theming section, before Jetpack Compose, themes were set in manifest and the various styles attributes were declared in resource folder in XML files too. We also had material design classes for the themes. But in Jetpack Compose, everything is just quite different. So it also comes with a pre-configured material design theme. You can customize this theme to meet your own demands in an easier way to provide properties like shapes, typography, and colors in the material theme composable. We'll still have time to look at those classes in our Android Studio. So state management. So in imperative UI, state management was not as easy as declarative UI. You have to talk about managing the states in an activity. You now talk about managing states in fragments. But in Jetpack Compose, it's just one, just your composable. Your composable, recompose, and compose. That is just what you think about. So less code is one of them. So Compose allows you to do more with less code compared to using the Android view system, buttons, list, or animation. Whatever you need to build now is less code to write. So the code you're writing is written only in Kotlin rather than having it split between Kotlin and XML. It's much easier to trace through code when it's all written in the same language. So the lifecycle, I know lifecycle it's a problem when it comes to the imperative way. So before Jetpack Compose, you learn how to manage the lifecycle of an activity separate, lifecycle of a fragment separate. That's stressful. So, and they are more complex compared to Compose. So while in Compose, The life cycle of a composable in the composition, it's just more like 3 states. It enters the composition, it gets recomposed, or more, and it leaves the composition. So let's have an image that would explain more about that. You know that this at the left is the activity life cycle, and the one at the right is fragment life cycle. So you see how you're having on create, on start, and you need to know all this. So it's really stressful and it's complex. Now, this is compose. So let me go back again so you get to see and understand what I'm talking about. This is activity and this is fragment. We know fragment lives in activity. So living in activity does not even make it to have the life cycle of an activity. Instead, it has its own life cycle. But this is compose. Enter composition, and this is composition, then leaves composition. So while in this composition, it will now check if it recomposes once or recomposes more than once. Then after that, it goes to leave the composition. This is 1, 2, and 3. Then coming back to this, like it's so much, it's complex. So thank you. So that's all from my side. So let's go over to Android Studio and let's see everything I'm talking about live. So this is Jetpack Compose, and this is the imperative way of building Android projects. So coming down here, you get to see your team. Like I explained before, this is your team. It has the colors, shape, and team, and your type. And coming down here, this is just a screen I built. I call this one project design screen. So I used Kotlin to write both the UI and also the logic for this in just one class if I want to. So I don't need to be jumping from XML, design in XML, and come down to this section of Kotlin and start writing the logic for that. So I write both the UI with Kotlin and also write the logic with Kotlin. So now coming down to this one, this is where I design the UI. This is the UI with XML. And go to the screen. Okay, now, and this is the logic. This is the section where you have to write the logic for this. So you see how it is. So this is just the difference with building with an imperative way of Android and also using the declarative way. So in the imperative is where you do things in more than one languages, and you have to design in a different language and come and write your logic in another language. While in this declarative way, you just do use one language to build the UI and also build the logic and interfaces and everything that will build an entire application with just one language, which is what Flutter uses, SwiftUI uses, and Jetpack Compose. So that's it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Wisdom, for your session. And sure, maybe we can wait if we have any questions. So till now we don't have. So thank you again for your interesting session.